Hey everyone, welcome back to Champion Standard. We got a special guest tonight. We got JY. We're gonna kick it and talk O line. Let's get into it.
That's my standard. That's my standard. My champion standard. Champion standard. Pull up with the answers. Yeah, the answers. The champion standard. Champion standard. Yeah, yeah. That's my standard. My champion standard.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Like Rob said, we got a special guest this week, JY, joining us. Um, Before we bring him in, I just wanted to remind everyone: please like, subscribe, download YouTube, X, wherever you can find us. Just look for Champion Standard. Would love to hear from you. But JY, welcome back. I know this is your second go run with us, so glad you're willing to come back, and we didn't run you off the first time.
No, it's all good. I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. You're our O line guru. Is that? I think that's good, right, Rob? He's our O line guru.
Yeah,
Is that?
for sure.
And until you come up with a better name.
It
So
works.
yeah, yeah,
It works. When you're talking O line, you don't have to be pretty, so it's all right.
yeah. So let's dive in a little bit, Rob. I know you got some things you want to pull up eventually, but spring practice about halfway in. Um, I know there's been, a lot of talk about some of the freshmen that have come in, Fasusi and Voji, and there's some guys that are banged up. So a lot of other guys are getting opportunities. So, uh, what have you heard on your end, JY? I know we get what we get from TFB. So,
Sure. I just every year it seems like in the off season there's everybody's running 4.3s and jumping 40-inch verticals and all this other type of thing, and you hear, oh, this guy's ripping it up. Last year it was Bauer Sharp, that we heard about, and all that kind of thing, and the one thing I'm a little disappointed in this year is you got Ozida and Howland are hurt right now on that left side. They really kind of came into their own and moved along really well towards the end of the year, and it seemed like the two Jakes, they were hurt most of last year. Well, they're back for the spring, and so they're starting. And so on one hand, you want to think, oh, that's great, we got all these guys that can play, but like we were talking about earlier, the best ability is availability. So, part of me says, come on, man, rub some dirt on it, man, get in there, but at the same time, they've got some torn labrums there with
Mhm.
Ozida and Howland. So that's important, but, you got to get that fixed. But at the same time, those reps that you're missing out on, and, you're giving somebody else an opportunity to take a job. And, case in point is Eddie Pierre Louis. You look at him; he's stepping up. He was always going to be a talent. You know, um, Supremely talented coming out. He's kind of a beast. Reminds me of this generation's Duke Robinson. I hope he turns into a guy like
Ooh,
that. I mean,
good
he,
comparison. I like that.
he's
Yeah.
just nasty, man. The one
He is nasty.
the most underrated trait of an offensive lineman is to be a bully. And you've got to be the group of people that sets the tone, because you know it's the only group that is independent of anybody else, right? You don't need another position group on that offensive unit to dictate whether or not you're going to have a good game, right? The running backs need the O line, the quarterback needs the O line, the receivers aren't going to catch any passes if the QB can't get the ball off. But the O line, they don't depend on anybody else. So you've got to get out there and set the tone, and it's always got to be that bully mindset. And Eddie Pierre Louise is the kind of guy that you want to take into a dark alley with you, right? You want him in your
Yeah.
foxhole with you, and that's when I look at guys' film, I want to see a guy that you kind of have to hold back. Sometimes, people get frustrated with the 15-yard penalties, a guy going too hard or whatever, but you're going to be in that defender's head the rest of the game. So to a degree, depending on what the situation is, sometimes it's worth it to get that unsportsmanlike a little bit, to drive a guy into the ground, set the tone, maybe break a rib or something like that. But you know. Um, you know, game's a little bit more friendly than it was when we had to fold our helmets up after the game and put them in our back pocket, you know. But it's I'm excited about what he brings to the table. You know, they brought in some good stuff through the transfer portal. The kid from Western Carolina, you hear a little bit about him. I'm not as sold on Simmons as some of the other people are. Um, you know, from watching film, he seems more of an inside player than an outside guy to me. In a perfect world, I would prefer that Jake Taylor stay healthy and cement that right tackle position, because coming out of high school, it seemed like to me Jake Taylor was the more college ready offensive lineman coming out of Las Vegas. I think I'm not sure if he was a Gorman guy or not, out there in Vegas where DeMarco Murray played, but watching him and Jake Taylor, I'm sorry, Jacob Sexton. Taylor was a little bit more polished coming out, and I thought he would get on the field quicker than, say, Sexton did, but that wasn't the case because Sexton's just a bull, and he's a bully, right? But unfortunately,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
injury bug bit him too. So it's all kind of up in the air right now. It's I want to be hopeful because I think we're all a little disappointed, or a lot disappointed rather, with what happened last year. We want to see Oklahoma football being able to line up and run over people a little bit and being able to dictate terms to other teams. And so I'm cautiously optimistic because you got Fasusi and Foji, or Foje. Not really sure how. Hopefully, I don't mutilate his name there. But
One of those is right for sure.
yeah, so they're both going to be really good long term. But are they ready to step out of their high school prom and into Memorial Stadium and be able to buckle it up and get after it? So and be good, because at the end of the day, it's not just about getting on the field at Oklahoma. It's about being a dominant player and playing in the SEC too. That's not an easy thing to do. So
Mhm.
um, you want to see Sexton have a great year. He's a senior. You got to root for the kid. He's done everything they've asked him to do. Played multiple positions in the same season. And again, going back to the availability piece of it, sometimes Coach Beatonbaugh had to move him around a lot. You root for a
Mhm.
guy like Everett there in the middle at center, and then you hope that Wee Woo over there on the right side can get a little bit better, and looks like he's trimmed up a little bit, so he might be just a tad more athletic this year, and just little refinements that you do. Sometimes it's strange to think that you lose 10 or 15 pounds and everybody's in a panic thinking, oh my God, man, this guy's, and he's still 315, not like he's missing any meals, but at the same time, they're like, oh man, he's small, he's going to get pushed around or whatever. But it may just help your balance a little bit. It may help your footwork a little bit. Sometimes when you trim up just a little bit and you do some more movement stuff and you refine your technique. I mean, it's a big deal. Footwork is everything at that level. We were looking at those
Mhm.
board drills a little bit earlier, and the 2-man sled a little bit, and a lot of that stuff has to deal with footwork and playing with your eyes and all that kind of stuff. And I know I'm kind of rambling here, but as far as depth goes, I think they've got more depth on campus now than they have in a really long time. But are they going to be able to stay healthy? Because last year you had a lot of
Right.
guys, you had an all conference center coming in that everybody thought, Branson Hickman, they thought he was going to come in and be the guy in the middle, and then he gets hurt.
And
And then
Mhm.
he
Hatchett,
gets hurt. Yep.
came down out of either Washington or Oregon or wherever he came from, and then he gets hurt. Everybody was
Yep.
hurt last year. And so as I get older, I don't get as excited about off-season reports as what I used to, because it's more of a wait and see type deal.
Yeah.
So hopefully these guys get healthy and we have some legitimate, really, really big time battles. Because if everybody's healthy, Howland's going to push Sexton. Ozada's going to push Eddie Pierre Louis, or the other way around. Don't know who's going to push Everett in the middle. They've been talking about bringing another center in, and
Right.
this is the time for Asosa or Isosa to step up if he's going to crack the lineup. he was kind of brought in as a guy that needed to develop and get bigger. Well, hey, you've had a couple off seasons under your belt now, and it's time for you to step up and be that guy. And you got Wee Woo and Foje over there on the right, and then again Taylor, him and Simmons over on the right there at tackle also. So um, seems like you got a legitimate two deep, and a lot of it too is going to depend on how quickly they can pick this new system up. How offensive line friendly is it?
Yep.
And
Yep.
you know, it seems like for maybe some of these guys that have maybe transferred here and there, now they're on a level playing field with the guys that have been there all along because everybody's learning a new system. Nobody's been in this system at all before now. And so how quickly they can pick that up, how good they can work together, mesh as a unit, all that type of thing, it's going to be a big deal. So um, a lot of it's between the ears sometimes. How smart are you? How fast can you catch the concepts that Arbuckle's trying to put in, and how well can Coach Biedenbaugh teach it, and all those things factor into it. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for sure. I am disappointed that we don't get to see a spring game though. I don't like that, but I get it. So
Yeah, this here is from James Hale, obviously TFB, and they're doing some bull and pull here, practicing resetting their anchor and their base here. It was one of the classic uh, beat and bow
yeah,
drills, and um, I noticed in one of those was Wee Woo, who is showing off his strength there. The the dude could lose a little bit of weight and still be super damn strong.
sure,
That kid was he's an ox, man. A few years ago he was a baby ox, and now he's grown up, and he needed to slim some weight because I mean, just watching the film last year, he really struggled to get to that second level. I
yeah,
mean, just maybe it was game speed, the speed of the backers and everything. He needed to lighten up. I still think Wee Woo is going to be a hell of a great guard. He just needs to, its experience and slimming down a little bit. But yeah, I feel like this offensive line, we last year was just as far as injury wise, I mean, you can't ever like get in, predict injuries. It's a part of the game. And last year, it's just we had injuries everywhere. I mean, is that going to happen every year? No. Did it happen last year? Yes. Is it going to happen this coming year? Hopefully not. But with this crop of the offensive line that we've got, I don't think you will have as much drop off. You've got all these the freshman class that are coming in like Fasusi and Foje that can alleviate a lot of shuffle there. But I'm excited for this offensive line group. I don't think Beatenbow has he ever had a crop of this much from experienced down to freshman talent ever in his 12 years at OU? I don't think he's ever had this much talent in 1 year from like top to bottom. And I feel like getting into the season, he's gonna when he gets into fall camp, he's gonna have so many damn options. Fojic, is he a tackle? Is he a guard for this year? Is it Hosida and EPL are gonna be battling for left guard. Where does that say for Sexton and Howland? I mean, Sexton's gonna play. Where is he playing? Is he playing left tackle? Is he going to take Holland's spot if EPL wins? Does EPL not win? And I mean, like, there's so many options for Beatenbow to be in fall camp to really play around. And I won't be nervous about this offensive line like I was last year. I think when we get through fall camp, I just think Coach B is going to be just masterfully, just architecturally putting everything together, being extremely patient, and we're not going to know what that starting offensive line's going to be until probably what game week at the very like at the soonest, and even after game one, it's probably not going to be until Michigan week until we actually see who are the five that separated. And you know, the age old adage, iron sharpens iron. I don't think there's a group in this entire team that has the amount of talent top to bottom than the offensive line. I mean, look at the receivers. I mean, you have some, receivers and the playmakers like tight end, like they're getting FCS transfers. I worry there. But quarterback, quarterback's settled, but like corner and safety, I mean, from top to bottom, I don't think there's any group that has an iron sharpen iron mentality where gives the position coach all the flexibility in the world to wait until fall camp to let things play out. Let these players figure it out. Let them who's going to take it? There's so much there. You're going to go through summer workouts and everything. Like I feel like this offensive line is could be it's gonna be pretty good. It's gonna be pretty good.
And I think JY touched on, the center position maybe lacking a little bit of that depth. You may have depth at other positions, but that center position, I felt like we had two or three guys last year at the start of fall camp. Obviously, they beat each other up in August,
Yeah.
which is a whole nother thing. I mean, we can talk about fall camp, but god dang, I feel like the O line, maybe the O line and wide receiver room during fall camp just got annihilated last August, and we can't have that happen
Yeah.
again, or um, we're going to be in trouble. JY, is there a way to like compare? You know, I know it's practically impossible because it's spring. Compare where the team does look on the offensive line right now to a year ago at this time. Do
Well,
you feel like there's more depth? Yeah.
Rob touched on a little bit from a press clipping standpoint. I kind of try to shy away from a talent word usage just because press clippings, I agree with you 100%. Foji and Fasusi, probably two of the top rated tackles in the country coming in. The guy that I'm really disappointed that got hurt, I thought Darius Afalava was going to be
Mm.
the most college ready guy that they actually
Wow.
brought in because that kid's already getting 2.25 like 25 times in high school.
Wow. Holy
I mean,
crap.
and to put it in perspective, not like I was ever a champion power lifter, but I played 8-man football in Cromwell, Oklahoma. We didn't have a weight program. So when I got to Missouri Southern in the fall of 1995, I got 2.25 3 times. And for an offensive lineman, that is no bueno. That is not good.
Mm-hmm.
And so just through hard work and things like that, I came back, second year I was getting it 12 times. By the time I get into my fourth year, I was getting it 28 times. And you see a kid like that, he's in high school. He's already
Jeez.
25, 30 reps on 2.25. And that's impressive. And, I was really excited to see him. So I am very disappointed there. But at the same time, he'll be back and, he'll come around and all that good stuff. And then you got the Hollenbeck kid that they
Oh
brought
yeah.
in that as a center. He's raw. He is the
Mhm.
typical beat and bow mentality guy, just mean as a snake, you know. Um, looking for that next Creed Humphrey type kid, but he's not ready yet, I don't think. Um, everybody hoped that Josh Bates would have been that guy, but
Mhm.
he just I don't know if it was a cerebral thing or whatever for him. And so while I am very excited about this young group of offensive linemen, I'm very hopeful that they don't have to use them. Um, they're going to play because especially with the red shirt rule, what it is now, you can play in 4 games, whereas you didn't get to play in a game at all when I
Mm-hmm.
played because you'd burn your red shirt. If you played in more than 2 games, you couldn't even be considered for a medical hardship. If you blew out a knee or tore up a shoulder or anything like that. Now you can play in 4 games and still redshirt. So it's so you'll see him on the field a little bit, but to me, in a perfect world, I think you go Sexton left tackle, um, Pierre Louis at left guard, Everett at center, Wee Woo at right, and then Taylor at right tackle. Because you got Sexton and Taylor and Everett. They're all seniors, I think, or Jake Taylor might be a junior, but I know Sexton and Everett are seniors. So then, and again, it's a perfect world type thing. I think Wee Woo's going to be a senior also. Um, so you're hopeful that Fasusi can get ready, and then him and Howland have a battle, you know, at left tackle the next year, and then you got Wee Woo and Ozida having a battle, and then Afalava gets healthy, and now he's in the mix with the 3 guard rotation, and then
Mm-hmm.
hopefully Isosa steps up by then, or something there, and Hollenbeck might be ready. You never know how quickly kids are going to develop and what they can do, and then on the right side at that right tackle position, does Foj bump outside, or does he keep him in at right? Does he have Afalava or Ozida or Eddie Pierre Louise, one of those guys bump over to right guard? How does he play that out? So, and that's one of the things Beatonbow does, I think, as good as anybody in the country, is he recruits guys that are versatile. It's very rare that you see him recruit an actual center. Creed Humphrey was a high school tackle, right? Um, and you got the other kid that's Fasusi's best friend. He's a little bit shorter, but very similar to an Eric Wren type, that
Hmm.
comes in as a preferred walk on, who ends up playing really well for the Sooners. So, and I can't remember that kid's name, but he's out of Louisville also. And so, he has some youth options. And then the other guy that we haven't even talked about is Autry Dent. They're really high on him as well at the tackle position. So I agree 100%. Raw talent and everything you hear about them and what scouts think about them and all those types of things, they've got a ton of talent. Now,
Yeah.
as I get older, I get more skeptical about talent because, to me, being somewhere that you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, how you're supposed to be there, doing what you're supposed to do in and of itself is a talent. So
Hmm.
being dependable, playing through pain, because let's face it, everybody's pain threshold is different.
Hmm.
So
Right.
are you going to play through some pain? Are you going to be able to, because at the end of the day, even when you play this game right, it hurts. You know, don't let anybody lie to you. It hurts. You're going to have jam fingers. You're going to have ding shoulders. You're going to have stingers. You're going to have all these things. So what I want to see from this offensive line, I want to see some damn grit. I want some toughness. I want to see them be bullies. I want them, maybe not like what Josh Bates last year did and took his helmet off and got that penalty and all that, but I want to see them driving people into the damn ground. I want to, I
Yeah.
want to, I want to see them come out in that first game, and I'm not even sure who they play in the first game, but I want to see some domination against an overmatched team like they should, because if they are as talented as what everybody says that they are, and this system that Arbuckle has, I like the system. It's a gap scheme. He does a lot of quarterback run. You got a quarterback that knows how to run it, that's teaching everybody to do it. You got the best offensive line coach, in my opinion, in the country. Beatonbow has a track record. I don't care what anybody says. You know, I'm he is he is the best there is, because everybody's like, "Oh, fire Beatonbow." Okay, who the hell are you going to get that's as good as he is,
Right.
right? Alex Gibbs retired a long time ago. Used to coach for Denver, so I don't know who you're going to get. But he's
Long retired guy.
yeah, and so I'm excited about what they could be, but given a little bit of the scarring from last year, and in the last couple of years, they haven't lived up to the hype, right? Because some of this talent's already been on campus. Sexton and Taylor got to stay healthy. They just got to, right? You just got to stay healthy. You can't get hurt. That was a conversation our offensive line coach, and I know it was Division II or whatever. He'd bring us into a room before the beginning of the year, and the people that were going to play, there were 5 or 7 or 9 of us, or how many ever there were, that, because there's guys on every team that probably aren't going to play, but he'd bring those 5 or 7 or 9 or how many ever it was that he could see playing, he'd bring us into the room, set us down, and say, "Guys, you can't get hurt. You can't
Mm-hmm.
get hurt. You got to stay healthy. You got to make good decisions. Don't be out late. Get good sleep. Take care of yourself, and all that type of thing. Because at the end of the day, the team doesn't run if you're not the guy. And I mean, you got a responsibility when you got a quarterback like Mateer. Everybody's seen how good this guy was at Washington State, and what a big disappointment it would be as a group of offensive linemen if he came in and you didn't do your damn job, and you know,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
you
That's a
know,
good point.
you got to take freaking responsibility as an offensive line to dictate the freaking tempo of the game and the team, and if you don't, that's your bad. You're gonna wake up when you're 45, 50 years old, like me, when you're an old man, and you're gonna think about, man, what could I have done? Should I have been out chasing those skirts in College Corner instead of, doing what I was supposed to do, or wasn't paying attention, and then I fell asleep in a meeting or whatever, and then I end up giving a sack and Mateer got his leg broke or something. That's stuff that haunts you if you don't give everything that you have. And they got a big ass opportunity in front of them because the defense is going to be good.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know you're losing Stutzman, you're losing Bowman, but again, just like on the offensive line, if a guy like Gentry Williams can stay healthy, man, I don't know that we got a better corner on the team, right?
Yep.
So
I've been hoping. Been hoping.
yeah,
Gentry's got to
so
be healthy.
yeah, so Sexton and Taylor got to stay healthy, and then give Fasusi and Foji and these other guys some spot duty. Let Ozida and Howland heal up, get stronger, and all that stuff, and then really, you could really see them grow into a really, really good unit. You really could. They could
Yeah.
be really, really good if they stay healthy and if they have the right mindset.
And I'm glad you mentioned Mateer, because doesn't an experienced quarterback like that coming in help the line a lot too, rather than having Arnold and Hawkins in the backfield a lot of times,
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, when I played there at Missouri Southern, I don't know if you ever heard of him, a kid named Brad Cornelson. He played out at Texoma. He's actually a head coach at Enid High School right now, and he just got named there. He was the offensive coordinator for Sam Houston State this last year, and actually led them to a bowl game victory. And he was with Justin Fuente for a lot of years and was the offensive coordinator for him in Memphis and Virginia Tech. Hell of a coach, but probably even a better quarterback for us there at Missouri Southern. And you know, looking at Brad in the huddle, he had complete and total command of our group and our offense, and you felt the responsibility because you knew that if you did your job, he was going to do something spectacular. And the only reason that he couldn't do something spectacular was not because of him. It was because of the guy looking at me back in the mirror. And so, to your point, Brad, you have, definitely having a guy like that knows this offense inside and out, and Mateer is here to make money. And I say that from an NFL standpoint. He grew up down the road, and I don't know how they thought that Jackson Arnold was better than that kid. Because what's wild about it, if you look at Mateer, they were in the same district in high school.
hmm
I don't
hmm
know if you guys
Yeah.
knew that or not.
Yep, the
Yeah.
Denton
Guess who won
area
the
there.
district? Yeah, guess who won the district MVP? It
Yeah,
wasn't Jackson Arnold.
yeah,
But yeah, you can't fault just OU. Everyone missed on Mateer. He was in the Little Elm, Texas over there, just running around, scoring points and having a fun time being the first year starter for his high school, and everybody missed on him. Texas, TCU, all of them. It wasn't until what Dickert, right? I think it was the coach Dickert that just randomly went in there. Somebody just told him, "Hey, you need to go look at this kid at Little Elm," and he's like, "Okay, He needed a quarterback, so he went in there and found himself a Mateer, and he was raw. And I actually I have high school tape of him somewhere on this hard drive, and like he was wild, man, but he was a baller. Like he was confidence.
Yeah,
I mean that's where we hear today. I mean he's just we
Yeah,
Brad and I mentioned it on the last pod. I mean, he's always smiling.
Yeah.
He's just playing out of his, his personality is just like, "Hey, I'm here to play football. I'm good at it. I know I am, and I'm going to keep pushing myself forward. I'm going to get on my back. Let's go." That's kind
yeah.
of
I
his
mean,
mentality.
yeah, it's important because some of me and my teammates, even when we get together, we got a golf tournament this next weekend, alumni deal, and take it a little PG-13 here. We used to say that guy's got a little shit in him.
Hmm.
I mean, it's you want that guy. I mean, I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
watched those 30 for 30s on the U when
Hmm.
Jeremy Shockey's talking about,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't, I don't want a bunch of bankers and lawyers and
That's
all this
right.
other stuff. I want guys that want to fight in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's an important mentality because I think it's on the wall there in the Switzer Center. And you know, uh, Coach Wilkinson said the football at its core is a fight, and if you don't want to fight, you're not going
Yeah.
to win that fight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Miami won with convicts for years down there in the 80s. I mean,
yeah,
that we don't
you know,
want to take it there. I realize
right,
that, but
Catholics versus convicts.
Yeah, so I wanted to, follow up of a few things that you said. Last time you were on this pod, it was about this time actually. It was after the spring game in April, and you gave basically your prediction for the O line, and it was completely 100% true. You you said Sexton at left guard. I mean, like every we were at right guard. Taylor at right tackle, everything. So what you just mentioned, how you think Sexton's gonna be left tackle, which is different from last year. EPL, you project EPL taking left guard, Everett center, and then we will hold his right guard, and then a healthy Taylor holds right tackle. You were 100%. I'm just talking to the audience too. Like
Sure.
you were 100% right last year. I don't I don't have no doubt in my mind that you're right again. I was that's the O line that's kind of been playing in my head, but like I'm not super experienced or anything as far as like trying to like project O line. That's not in my wheelhouse. But that O line works, and then you got Ozida on behind EPL, who's is losing time. He has to earn his job back. Who's gonna sit there and he's gonna get on the field. I mean, it's not like he's not gonna play. And then, Wee Woo sheds weight. He's getting a little bit lighter. He's going to be better after adjusting to game speed. And then you got the Jakes as bookend tackles, which we were expecting last year. But left tackle was we were hoping that Tarquin was going to take that left tackle spot with his experience. It didn't quite work out, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
But that actually that fits. And that makes sense. And I think you're gonna end up being right again, JY. I mean, I don't know, man. Like
Well,
it's like you know how to evaluate O line or something, or you got
well,
some
it's
insider stuff.
people are going to be who they are, and the reason that I say that is Coach Beedenbow tends to do things the same way year after year after year. Um, he has to be able to depend on the group of guys that he is going to put out on the field. He has to be able to trust them, right?
Hmm.
And
Yep.
it's not just trusting a guy athletically, um, because you had Tarquin's not necessarily the most athletic guy, but he trusted him to do what he was supposed to do, right?
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into it. Whereas you look at those clips that you were rolling here a little while ago. I mean, you look at Fasusi, he just looks different. You
He
know, he
does.
he looks natural. His hips look loose. I mean, he is going to be a beast. He's baby Huey right now, but that dude in a few years he is built different, man.
Yeah.
He's going to be something. And can he stay healthy? Can he stay patient this year if he doesn't beat Sexton out? You know, because patience is a big deal. It's
Hmm.
especially in the transfer portal world. How does Beatenbow keep a group of guys interested? So
Right. You're right.
uh,
I
you
hate
know
I hate
uh,
that world a little bit, but yeah.
yeah, and again, in a perfect world, I think you have that lineup that we were talking about, and you keep, you know, you get Fasusi at that second left tackle or maybe right, depending on where he's the most comfortable, because you also got Howland who's going to be around, so you got a couple of tackles there. that are going to be here after Taylor and Sexton are gone. You got Darius Afalava coming back in. You've got Autry Dent, who's going to have something to say about that tackle rotation because he's now in year three. And something that is completely underrated is when you go home as an offensive lineman and you were a big dog when you were in high school, and
They ain't
people,
big dog anymore. Yeah,
and
you got to
people
earn it.
Thanksgiving and Christmas, and if you go home for spring break or whatever it is, like, hey man, why you playing? You starting yet? And you get tired of hearing that about year two, year three, year four. You
Of
know,
course.
it's some of that stuff. So it's don't sleep on the fact that once you get into those later years, you get a little bit nastier because you get a little bit madder that your opportunity maybe hadn't come along yet, and you start realizing it's not the opportunity you're waiting to come along. It's you should be making your own opportunity instead of waiting on it to show up.
Hell
So,
yeah.
it's important. So, I think you got a good group of second guys that, man, if they could just get a year under their belt and not be thrown in the fire right off the bat, then you could have a group that could go for 2 or 3 years, like that offensive line that you had with Orlando Brown and all those guys, and Drew Samia and
Powers.
Bobby
Yep.
Evans and Powers and
Evan.
Cody
Yep.
Ford and all that. And the same thing, Cody Ford, a good comparison for him is Ryan Foje, right? Because Cody Ford
Hell
started out
yeah.
at guard, right?
Wow.
He was your best offensive lineman in my opinion on that. I think it was 2015 when Ohio State came in and he broke his leg in that game. We were down by the goal line, and the
Yes.
offense was
I was there.
moving,
Yeah.
man. They were going
Yeah.
right down the field, and then Cody gets hurt. They plug Powers in, and then the next year Cody didn't get his job back because Ben Powers held it down. But then what ended up happening is because he had the versatility, because Cody was a high school tackle. What does he
Tackle.
do? Bumps him outside. So
Tackle. Yep.
same thing that I see him doing with Foje right now. So and ultimately what he wants to do is he wants to get the best unit on the field, the best five guys on the field. And a little known fact too is Wee Woo was a high school center. So,
Hmm.
what happens there? I mean, he could be your emergency center, if you had to be. So, and all that stuff happens. Do you bump EPL over to right guard if Everett gets hurt and put Wee Woo in at center? And so then you got a little bit more, veteran stuff on the field. There's
Hmm.
things you can do in there because at the end of the day, if you can't get that shotgun snap, you can't play. Right? It's a little bit different than
Right.
when I played. Nobody was going from the shotgun. It was that Nebraska power offense, man. You're down and you got all your weight forward and a 3-point stance. You heard about pass protection, but you never really did it. So they've got some talent, and they've got, if they can just stay healthy, if they can just stay healthy, you know.
Right.
I like that you mentioned Cody Ford because he was like when I think nasty, his name always pops in my head. The guy was
Yep.
kind of a road grader and would just, sometimes block beyond the whistle a few times and just
Yep.
he was always on the edge of getting a late penalty or something. But yeah, he
Yeah.
got he got he got nasty in those elder years, like you talk about, guys just, you know, fed up with, not getting playing time or whatever. And he was one of them that made the most of his. So
Yeah. I want to see that out of Sexton and Taylor this year.
hey,
I've got to see.
did y'all mention Akin Koopy when I was in the other room? That's one name I didn't remember us bringing up. Y'all might have said it when I was gone, but
No, I haven't brought him up. I mean, he's in year two now because he redshirted last year. We knew he was raw. I mean, all the athletic ability in the world, So is he going to be able to step up and take that next step? That's a big deal because he's a developmental guy. He's going to, but is a guy like Fasusi going to be able to come in and pass him up? Because
right.
at the end of the day, there's only two tackles
Hmm.
on the field at any given time, unless they go jumbo and put a third tackle on the field, which happens, but it's not common. Um, so
That's funny you say that because Rob and we've brought this up before. We have a lack of tight ends.
We do.
Oh,
So,
we do for
we
sure.
sit here and say, "Can you do 3 tackles?" Could you see that play out potentially?
Yeah, I think you could.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I would find my one tackle, or sorry, my one tight end that's gonna be my 11 personnel tight end that I can just split out wide, do some wide receiver screens, bring in, do my GY counter, scheme them up, get them open on some, some of the plays that Arbuckle likes to run, and then as my second tight end, I'm using our best tackle as our 12 personnel. I have to move the ball here on this 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. I'm not worried about trying to make that 12 personnel tight end a receiving threat. I just want to go north and south and get a first down and keep the drive moving. So
Well, and another funny thing, Logan Howland was a high school tight end. So,
there you go.
he could do it. He could, you know. The kid from Weatherford, I wish they'd put it tight end, but I know Venables is a defensive coach, so he wants CJ Nickson over on
Mhm.
the defensive side.
I
But
forgot about CJ. That's right.
his high school highlights at tight end are unbelievable. I mean, that kid can flat
Really?
out, yes, do yourself a favor and watch his high school highlights. That kid can flat out play tight end.
Rob will be all over that.
I'm going right now,
I
actually.
think he's looking
I
at it
mean,
right now.
it's
Dude, like I can't stand the way that the tight end room is looking right
Yeah.
now, JY. I just can't. Like I
well,
hate it. I hate it so much, man. Like, no, it hurts my soul. Like
well,
I
I
can't.
mean,
I don't like it.
tight end is such a I hate for it to sound this way, but tight end is such a fickle position, man. And the reason I say that is you're either an ogre or a pretty boy. There is no in between
Yeah.
because you've got
Yeah.
guys that think they're big receivers, like a
Mhm.
Mark Andrews,
Yep.
that they didn't want to. I don't want to be a tight end. I'm a receiver, And so Lincoln Riley tells him, "Okay, you're a receiver," and then he gets to OU and he becomes a tight end, right? And now he's all pro. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. And then you got guys like Brody Eldridge, that is just couldn't
Mhm.
catch his ass with both hands, but he could block, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and Joe John, as much as the Sooner fan base doesn't like him right now, he was a hell of a tight end at Oklahoma.
Mhm. Mhm.
Unfortunately, he was on the same team as a kid from Ardmore that kind of tore it up a little bit. That was very very good for us. That probably should have got the ball a lot more against Florida, and we probably win that game. But
Yeah.
you know Jermaine Gresham could flat out play, and he was a little bit
Yep.
of both.
Yep.
But CJ Nixon to me is probably the closest thing I've seen to a guy like Gresham coming out of high school.
Mm. Mm.
But he was, but again, kind of the weird dynamic of it. If you got an offensive coach, he probably gets a look there. You've got a defensive coach, so he's going to put him at DN. That's so. And another guy I think that could end up flipping over to the offensive guy is the Shield Knight kid from Wagner. So,
Right.
because he played, Wagner's 4A ball. It's not, but you watch how natural he looks and how well he moves. He's got good hands. You know.
So we're watching some CJ Nixon split out wide. Just yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have to see any more.
Yeah, that's it
Like
right there.
that plays it.
That's it. And that's
That's
how
it. I don't
you
need to see anything else. This right
dude,
here.
there's your
I
tight end right there. I
that
mean,
that's a tight
somebody,
end.
Uh,
so you
yeah.
need to take. I'm in Kansas
What
We're
City,
is
not.
so you need to take your ass to the Switzer Center, and you need to stage a
If they'll
protest and put
if they'll
CJ
let us
Nixon at
in, yeah.
tight end.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So
Be
that
like,
he
be
can
me.
that
flat out.
is
He's got
Yeah.
good hands. He can flat out play,
what?
man.
Yeah.
That's a
I know.
basketball player.
Yeah.
I
That's
knew
what you
he.
want at tight
Yeah.
end.
I knew he
You need a
Yes.
played both
basketball
ways.
player.
Yeah. I knew
Yes.
he
That's a
played both
basketball
ways,
player.
but I didn't know
Who
Did
tight
does
he
end
he
was one of
remind
them.
you of right off the bat? When you say basketball player, who does he remind you of?
I see Gonzalez right here, but that
I'm thinking
I don't
Antonio
he
Gates, but
88.
Oh, okay.
He looks like 88. It what? He's at corner? He
yeah,
played a little. He
the
played at some corner.
little slot stuff. And he picks it off, dude.
Yeah.
He
Okay,
has got
okay,
ball
no,
skills, and you're going to waste him at DN, dude. He could be
Yeah.
dominant.
God, I wish you could play him at tight end this year just to fill the gap and then move him
Yeah.
over or whatever. But oof.
no. JY, this is a crime. This is a crime. Why are we moving Canick to backer? Like, just move him.
Well, because I think Canick to me is an H back, right?
Yes, he could be H back.
Canick is an
Yeah.
H back, fullback. That's
Hmm.
because that's
Hmm.
what he did in high school. Canick never really he played defense at Hayes, but he didn't. Mainly he was an offensive player. Here he is in the slot again, right?
Yep.
Look at this. Just
Oh no, he was playing corner. He was playing
yeah,
corner there
yeah,
for his.
playing slot corner, and then he pick six. He houses it and outruns everybody. So and this ain't Class A ball. This is Weatherford, man. I mean,
No,
they're
I played against Weatherford. They're good, dude. No, this
look at. I
is.
mean, the guy can flat out play, man. It's and he moves. He's fluid, and I know they want to see that, but at defensive end. But come on, man.
Yeah, come on, man. Is right.
You know what you've just done, JY. You've made it now where Rob and I are going to be on a podcast and we're going to be questioning BV's coaching decision on this.
Well, it's not a coaching decision so much as it is that, and it's the same thing he did with Canick. He sees what they can do on defense, right? When they might be better on offense,
Yeah.
right?
Doesn't that feel a little bit high schoolish to you? A little bit, where it's like, hey, we got to put all our best players on defense first and see if I can plug and
Well,
play them,
I
and then just push it to offense. Like, I feel like you need to play the players where they're gonna get drafted. Like you
Well,
you
well,
play them not only where they're needed, but also, hey, this is where you're going to play on Sunday. This is where you should go.
sure.
Now, I'm not
yeah.
saying
Well,
this is like a Sunday NFL tight end. I mean, it's high school ball, so I can't evaluate, but I'm looking at our team, and our team is literally decimated at tight end. It's decimated. Like, we're
sure.
bringing in FCS transfers to try to come in and raise the SEC game, and you've got a CJ Nickson here who's on your roster right now that could be in that room developing into that next guy. I don't know, man. The
Well, I will tell you
God dang, look at this.
I do like the Huggins kid at tight end too, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's a good player. Don't sleep on that kid. And I know you're not
Okay.
big on FCS or Division two. Huggins can play, man.
Okay. Hey, hey, I got, I got, I got, I got two words for you that may be able to possibly influence this decision that wasn't there a couple of months ago. Can Jim Nagy be in
Could.
Brent's ear now and be like, listen,
Ooh.
this guy, you know what I mean? You have that guy that knows NFL talent. Who better to know than
I mean,
him?
look at
So
how long his arms are just standing there. Back that up. Back that up to the start of the play, if you can. Right. So he kind of moves his arm. Look at the length. Look at his arms. How long? I mean, the dude can scratch his
Sasquatch.
ankles standing
No, he's
straight up.
Sasquatch. What
Yeah.
you knuckle draggler? Isn't that what you?
100%. You can stand there flat-footed and scratch your ankles without bending over. I mean, that
Yeah,
guy. I mean, seriously, look
yeah,
at him, and then he gets the ball. They're just throwing it out to him in space.
yeah.
You're going to give us 10
I
yards. We
we
got a
have
guy
found
that's
Bigfoot. Yep.
6'5", 230, and he's going to break. He's going to shake this guy, and then he's going to run over another guy. Those
Mm,
kids don't want to have anything to do with that guy.
hmm,
That's your tight end right there.
dang.
JY, I am so happy I brought you on.
Oh yeah, I
Like,
know.
I'm so
That's
happy, man. Like,
I mean, he catches
this
everything.
is
Because I watch all the film on all these guys, and you pull it up and you're looking, okay, they got this defensive end. I'm going to check him out, and all of his highlights are offense.
Yeah. So CJ Nickson should be a player in the tight end room. I mean, at this point, right? I mean, like for 2025 Sooner football, like he should be a part of that room and like, be kind of developing. But at the same time, maybe he doesn't want to play offense. We don't know. I mean, does
Yeah,
the player? I mean, CJ Nixon might be like, I don't want to be offense. I've never heard of a defensive player saying I want to play defense. Most most players I want the ball in the hands and I want to go score
sure.
touchdowns. I want to spike it in the back of the end zone. I want to, but I mean, for
I,
a team that is tight end needy, just to watch this film of this kid, like what? I mean, come on! Like Arbuckle did this exact play like 10 times with his tight ends, whether it's in line or split out.
Yeah,
It's just a
flexes
it's
them
just a
out.
pop pass. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just a pop pass.
you're
It's
out
just
there
a
one
pop
on one
pass.
with that slot
Easy.
defender. It's easy. It's too easy.
It's too easy.
I will say this: I do like CJ Nixon looks like a guy that's he's a farther along version of PJ with his size and athletic ability. And Pete,
Yeah,
because PJ was more raw, at least CJ looks like he's got more. He looks more college
sure.
ready, I guess you
Yeah,
could say.
sure. Yeah, PJ is the classic example, and you see NFL GMs do this all the time, and you'll see it here at the end of the month when the draft comes out, and you'll see that the GMs will go after a guy that's got potential, right? Oh man, his ceiling's so high, and you'll hear all these buzzwords and all this other stuff, But he wasn't productive in college. What makes you think he's going to be productive at a higher level? Right? He's because he's got potential, right? Come on,
Well,
man.
a a coach in the NFL sees the profile, right? Height, weight, speed. Height, weight, speed. And they think, hey, I'm a great coach. I can take that height, weight, speed, athletic profile, and I can make it something great. Right? Coaches, I mean, have egos just as much as players do, and they see a draft profile and they go, yeah, he didn't do a lot in college, but I bet if I bring him in, I can do something with him. And that's why you see some players go higher in the draft than they really should be based, because of production. But also, every draft is a little bit different. You have drafts where it's kind of weak, where it's kind of like you have to base a little bit differently. This draft that's coming in April, it's a pretty strong draft. There's some really great athletic profile players like Luther Burden that might not even go in the first round. James Pierce Jr. might not go in the first round because there are players with the height, weight, speed, and production all over the place.
Sure.
So I mean, so like players, coaches might think they might see a player that they just fall in love with, and just much as like us as fans, and I'm a draft nerd, so like there's some
Oh
draft
yeah.
crushes that I have that are like, I like this player a lot. I want him to go, and but it might not fit, and so anyway.
No, I get it, man. It's just like you look back. I use Doug Flutie as a prime example. I may be getting too old for you guys, right? But um,
Not
when
me.
he played for Buffalo, right? And he was tearing it up, flat tearing it up, and they were winning. They go to the playoffs, and they put Rob Johnson in because he was pretty. He was 6'5", 230, rocket arm. But what
I
what what
I
Crash
remember that.
Davis say on Bull Durham? Couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. It wasn't accurate. You know, um, same type of deal. You see all these guys that they got these rocket arms, and oh man, I can get him in. I can work on his mechanics and all this other kind of thing, and he's still inaccurate. If you're inaccurate, you're inaccurate. You're always going to be inaccurate. There's not very many guys like Troy Aikman that's got arm strength, velocity, accuracy. There's just not. And if a leopard can't change its spots, right? So if you're not accurate by now, you're not going to be, in my opinion. That's just my take.
Especially
So
at that level. I mean, if you're
yeah,
trying to get in the NFL, I mean, you are who you are as a player. Like, once you
sure,
get in the NFL, like, I don't. There's not really. NFL's not a developmental league.
right,
I don't believe that. I think the development is in the college game. The college coaches and the players have so much impact in their career now from freshmen in their senior years. It weeds players out. There's players that have that, that, like I said, the profile in college. They won't do a lick in NFL if they don't have the passion. Like you mentioned earlier in the pod about having the pain tolerance.
yeah,
You're not having if you don't have pain tolerance in college football, you're certainly not going to make it into the NFL. Like there's no way you're going to make it through a 22-week season in the NFL if you can't endure the pain in college ball. And so then in college football, enduring pain, developing yourself as a player, like that all happens now. The NFL, I mean, you have already been separated. So you've already been separated whether you're going to make it or not in the college game, in
right.
my opinion. Like once you
Well,
put the college
yeah,
tape, that's why when you were mentioning about how there's some players on the O line that, with the pain threshold, if they're not playing, they're not putting tape out. And if they're not putting tape out, the NFL ain't going to draft them. I mean,
yeah,
it's that simple. Like if you're missing time now, there's not going to be a team in the NFL that's going to try to, especially the O line position, because like the O line position, like you have to be on the field. Like there's
sure.
just wide receiver can miss a game or two,
That's
but like a tackle and a guard, you just
yeah.
can't. Like you have to be available.
Especially when you're putting in a new offense. And I'm old, I'm crusty, I'm angry, I'm all these things. I get it, but my college roommate Mike Tusaw ended up getting a free agent deal with Buffalo Bills after we got out of college. He tore his pec right before spring ball started. He popped his pec. I saw that
Oh,
man 3 rep 515 on the bench, and we were Division 2. The
oh,
dude's a beast. Okay, he went through spring with a torn pec. So don't tell me you
Damn.
can't get on the field for 4 weeks and play.
mhm.
So
That's right.
Damn.
so
That's wild.
he's saw the man straight bar squat about 850.
Wow.
So and that's what people don't realize about Division 2 and FCS and everything else. This Giovanni Gibson guy, I think that's his name, the kid from Arkansas Pine Bar.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
You know who he reminds me of? There's a guy named
Hope you
there's a
say.
guy named Rod
Hope you say
there's a
Megatron.
guy named Rod Smith that played for Denver Broncos
Ah,
for a
Denver.
lot of years.
Denver. Yeah.
Guess,
Yeah.
guess where he played?
Yeah.
Guess where he played in college?
He was a
Yeah,
small. He
Missouri
was an
Southern.
Arkansas
He
school too.
graduated
Missouri
like the year
Southern. Yep.
before I
Yep.
got there. Rod's a beast, man.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
mean, we had, I mean, obviously it's not University of Oklahoma, and I'm not even going down that road. But in the '90s, we had 5 or 6 guys that got at least free agent looks. And guys like Rod Smith, he gets to college, and I don't know if you've ever heard the story, or I'm sorry, he gets to the NFL, and he was having a hard time tracking the deep ball just because of the technique of how he was turning his head too quickly, and it was slowing him down. So he had
Mhm.
to run straight and then turn around and look at the last minute. And if you watch that extra, it's like a 2-minute video. I have to pull it up and send it to you. But one of the Denver coaches worked with him over and over and over, and then all of a sudden now he's one of the fastest guys on the field. So I mean, there's ways you can get better and stuff like that. But to me, when I
Mhm. Mhm.
saw, without going too far off on a tangent, I got to root for small school guys because I was one. And
Sure.
so
Right.
the Gibson kid, he can play. I don't care
Yep.
where he comes from. It's what you do when you get there that counts. The Huggins kid,
Yeah.
Man,
can play. And as much as it hurts me to say he's a damn monkey, over there at Pittsburgh State, that was our arch rival there at Missouri Southern. But that kid, he can play. Their mascot is the Gorillas, so that's why I call him a
right,
Ah,
right.
damn
gotcha.
monkey.
Yeah.
They would inflate this huge gorilla
Yeah.
that would be like 200, 300 feet in the sky.
Sure.
I mean, this huge
Yeah.
gorilla, and they would
King
play
Kong.
this like metal music, and then they would just come out and be like,
Well, they play
I mean,
Welcome to the Jungle,
it's
man.
like rocking.
It's a
Yes, Welcome to the
Oh,
Jungle,
okay.
Guns N'
Yeah.
Roses.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
they inflate
Makes sense.
the big ass monkey, and then they
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Guns N' Roses. I mean,
I can
honestly,
see
it's
why. I
probably
can
one
see
of
why
the
JY hated him.
Well,
Yeah,
that
but
and I always
it's one of the
you know,
coolest. I mean, it's one of the coolest entries
well,
in
from an
football.
atmosphere
So
standpoint at the Division II level, I don't know that there's anyone better in the country. From a straight up atmosphere, they do the, you know,
yeah,
it's great. I'm jealous because our program's not nearly what theirs is, and their tradition. They won like 3 or 4 national championships over the years, and Division II ball is, in FBS or FCS or whatever. It's 1AA to me, but it's a lot better than people give it credit for. So there are guys at that level that can flat out play, and so I think where Huggins has got to get better from a tight end standpoint is he's probably not used to facing the athletes that he's going to have to block. But uh, I think that Arbuckle's going to be able to scheme him a little bit in the pass game because the guy does have good hands. He's 6'7". There's things that he's going to be able to do, and I'm not saying he's going to be the second coming, but I don't think he's going to be chopped liver either. So, um,
awesome.
and so I'm excited about him, and I'm as much as everybody hates to talk about it, I'm excited about Canick too. I think he's more natural. I think he's more natural as an offensive player. He just is. I don't know if you've seen his offensive highlights, but there was this uh, there was this one deal, when he was in the playoffs there at Hayes his senior year, he runs over like 8 guys. He scores.
here's Huggins.
Yeah, yeah,
There was a little Huggins highlight.
yeah.
So
I mean, he's a big target, going to be a red zone mismatch, and the thing that you got to remember too is when you're going against your defense, they see your plays all spring. They see your plays all fall
Yep,
camp. They know
yep,
where you line up, what you're going to do. You scheme against them every day. You know all these things, and so if the offensive line is dictating the tempo against other teams like we hope it will, then the one guy on the offense that always gets lost, that everybody has a hard time accounting for, is the running back out of the backfield and the tight end. Nobody can cover him at any level. If you think about it, you watch every NFL game, you watch what Sarkisian does with his running backs, scheming them open, his
blue.
tight
Yep,
ends.
yep,
That
yep.
it's the one group or the two positions that it's hard to account for, especially in these RPO days and where you're putting guys in conflict as defenders. And it's just hard to keep track of. And I think Huggins is going to have some success because I think that Arbuckle is actually going to scheme some guys open. That was, if you listen to Teddy and Gabe's podcast, sometimes I'm a junkie, so I watch everybody's, but um, that was the one thing they talked about all year was how Oklahoma didn't scheme guys open. It's like, man, we can watch any other college game and there's guys getting schemed open, running wide open,
yeah.
blah, 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 and all this. And thought Gabe was going to choke somebody on some of those podcasts, but it's true. You can scheme guys open. And then,
Yeah,
We didn't
Lincoln did it. Lincoln
we
was one of the best about doing that.
we
We hate
never
to admit. So
100%.
is scheming guys open. We never ran a single tight end leak.
No.
Not one time.
Yeah.
Not one time. And then our quarterback never went through his. I mean, really, after his one progression, most progression plays, your back is actually your second progression. We never even looked there.
Well, and to his defense, I don't. I mean, Jackson Arnold. I don't think he had time most of the time.
right.
So I mean,
Like Sark, you mentioned Texas, like his tight end Gunnar Helm, Jatavian Sanders, Blue. I mean, they were
yep.
open so many times because he had again that consciousness with his quarterback Ewers, who's a 2-3 year starter, and hey, this is your progression. Boom, boom, boom. Offensive line solid, good to give you protection, and we're gonna distribute the rock. Last year, I've taken last year and just just threw in the garbage. Like it's not Oklahoma football. It never will be. This coming year, like you mentioned, like Arbuckle, I've got a whole list of tight end league plays. Cooper Mathers is the tight end, 6'2", 230, same height weight as Jaron Kanik. He had like 13 receptions, 6 touchdowns. Like the guy, he's going to scheme guys open. Like he's going to scheme his tight end open, whether it's a 6'7" Huggins or a 6'2" Jaron Kanik, he's gonna get the guy open. Because like you just mentioned, like the tight end just gets forgotten. It's just open. Like if you run your base offense and you run it well, you execute well your base offense, it's gonna leave other little things like a little tight end leak play, a little a rail play to the running back. There's a cool play where Mateer is running a little GT counter read and he's keeping the ball. The running back is running a rail. He's not expecting the ball. Mateer just throws it to him because he's wide open. Not expecting it, but he's wide open. And I think the tight end play and the running back play and the passing game is going to be a huge factor next year. It's going to be an added element that we're used to seeing it in years prior. We didn't see it last year, but it's coming back, and that's why the offense is gonna hum a little bit more. We're not gonna see so many drives just stall for no reason, and we're gonna see some things make a little bit more sense.
Well, I agree. I think that to a degree, last year you had a lot of times where they were throwing things against the wall and seeing what would stick. Just because you had so many guys that were hurt, you didn't know what they could do and what they couldn't do. Well, hey, this guy is good at this place, so it might not fit the situation really good, but I'm gonna try it just because I think we can execute it. And then it ends up getting screwed up. And then people are like, what the hell. And if you look back, and I hate talking about Texas, but 4 or 5 years ago, what were we talking about with them when all those offensive linemen that just now graduated,
Yeah.
they a lot of them had to play as true freshmen, and they looked bad. They looked
Mhm.
real bad, and everybody, and that was, I think, that was when Tom Herman got fired, and they brought Sarkeesian in, and so that's what happens when your offensive line is bad. It gets coaches fired. That's what happens, and so hopefully that doesn't happen this year. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You had an OC last year running an offense he wasn't comfortable with too. Excuse
Yeah.
me. So there was that.
Yeah, I'll never understand that, but that's
Yeah.
another bottle of whiskey where we discuss that one.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, we've kept you an hour. Do we want to keep going, guys, or we want to leave some in the tank for a future pod?
I could go all night, so
Yeah.
I'm leaving it
Yeah.
up to you guys.
Well, if you got stuff to talk about, we can talk about it. I can ramble all day long.
One thing I did want to touch on, y'all were talking about injuries. You're saying guys play through pain or whatever, get out there. The thing about it, JY, is like 30 years ago, the players didn't have the resources they do now to recover.
Well, and first off, I don't want to. I, I don't know. I'm on the outside. I don't know what's going on in the building and all those things. You got Ozida and Howland. Sure, they're great kids, whatever else. But if me personally, if I am them, I'm going through spring,
Mm-hmm.
taking my reps, learning it, unless it's just so bad that I can't play, and I'll have my surgery in between spring and summer. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
that's
mean,
me.
those are decisions that like professionals make. I mean, in the
You
NFL,
know,
if you've got practice, you can't miss practice. Like you
you
don't
know.
want to give up your job.
Well, that's just it. You give somebody else an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to take it. And now it's going to be damn hard for you to get it back
Right.
because from a pure talent standpoint, out of the two, Eddie Pierre Louis probably a little bit more talented than Ozida, right? If we're being honest.
Hmm. Yeah.
And Howland was developing. He was coming along really well, and he played really well there at the end of the year. But you got, if he stays healthy, arguably you're the best offensive lineman on the team in Sexton
It's Sexton.
that's
Yep.
pushing you. Do I really want to give that guy an opportunity to get back in the lineup? So I don't know,
And the
man.
thing
That
is, yeah.
you got to make some business decisions, man.
Right. Right.
And the thing is, like, it's different every year. Like every single year is completely different, new players, everything. Like that left guard spot, or I'm sorry, the left tackle spot was a big hole. That whole left side was, and that's why they had to move Sexton to left guard because
Yep.
we had Tarquin, but Tarquin's
Right.
it's a whole new circumstance. Hosada, I'm not, like I said, I don't I have no idea what he's going through or anything, but
Sure.
like it's a whole new circumstance every single year, and if you can be on the field, you have to be on the field. You have to. And pain, pain tolerance, I didn't play college football. Like I can't imagine the level of pain that, someone goes through, but
Well,
I will
it's
say that like you don't want to miss time because time and availability and tape, especially during the season, you got to put tape. Tape gets you drafted.
well, and that's just it. And I talk about it to my, to my guys that I work with. I'm a manager, and I've got a few supervisors and other managers that report to me. And one of the things I'm really proud of in my 25-year career, I've missed 2 days of work that wasn't pre-scheduled.
Wow.
Um, and I tell them all the time, you don't miss work. Your most important ability is your availability. Right? I don't know how many trash cans I've puked in over the years, running back and forth to the bathroom when you got the bubble guts, all those things. But if I've got to make a decision who I'm going to depend on, I'm going to take the guy that might be a 6 or a 7 in terms of talent that I know that's going to be there on a Friday night, that's not going to let me down. I can trust him.
Right.
That's a business decision,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've had to, on the 2 times that I've done it, they had to send me home. They had to make me go home, and just because it was pretty bad. But you know, um, that's important. It's a mentality. It's 100% a mentality. And if you want to be elite at anything, whether it's business, whether it's whatever it is that you're doing, football, college football, anything you want to name, it is a mentality.
Mhm.
One of the things I tell the guys all the time, I have things that other people don't because I'm willing to do things that other people won't. So there it is right there.
Yep.
You know, you can make a decision because life to me is all about pain. 100%. Pain facilitates change. If you're too comfortable where you are, it doesn't hurt enough for you to make a change. Right? And you're going to have pain one way or the other. Right? Is the pain of you sitting on the bench watching somebody else play worse than the pain that you're going through physically? Right? Because really, you boil it down, it's extremely simple. But at the end of the day, you're the one looking in the mirror. You got to make that decision. Nobody can make it for you. So,
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, I think I don't want to get too far off on this, but like the wide receiver room, I think that came into play a little bit last year. Um,
yeah, boy.
so I don't want to get off on that tangent um, today, but that's what it felt like just
Well,
from everything that
I
transpired.
think when something stinks, there's probably a turd somewhere.
Yep.
And it's 100% true because you know I don't know. I don't know those kids, but
Yeah, I
man,
know. Yeah,
come on,
yeah.
yeah,
I hate
get
to
your ass on the field.
exactly that exactly.
So
Kind of wrapping up, JY, your projected O line of Sexton, left tackle, EPL, left guard, center Everett, right guard Wee right tackle Taylor. You were completely right. This time last year, I I have a feeling you're probably gonna be right again. So it's really great to hear your insight and have you kind of lay it all out for us. And the pain, game tape, and then of course, Mateer being the added element to it all. Mateer's going to make the O line look good when the O line's going to bust. Like O line's not going to be perfect, and the O line's going to bust. Mateer can make it right, and he extends plays, he can find guys, and like we've mentioned over and over again, he's super comfortable in the offense. he didn't have a great offensive line in Washington State. He ran for his life too. He had to extend plays and make plays, put put them in position to win late fourth quarter, run for his life, finding the guy, finding the receiver. Looking into next year with this offensive line, those starting five that you're projecting, and the guys behind them, I feel like we're gonna have a great year. I mean, like I think they're gonna have a great year. I don't know about the team,
Sure.
whatever.
Right.
Take the team out of it. I think the O line's gonna have such a better year than they did last year. I mean, we gotta stay healthy, but you can't
Sure.
injuries. You can't project injuries. You're looking at this offensive line. It's gonna be light years better than it was last year. I mean, you got so many guys that are growing up and everything. So, and then they got a great quarterback that knows what they're doing. So,
I
I'm
hope
like,
you're right.
I think that we should be excited about that. I mean, we really
Well, I'm
should.
I'm
I mean, we got a
cautiously
great quarterback,
optimistic.
Yeah.
OC.
Same. Same.
I'm super optimistic at quarterback and O line. I mean, if you're looking at the entire team, the quarterback and the O line are the two spots that I'm super optimistic that we're going to be
Well,
great.
there's
It's
to me
everything
there's a
outside
couple
of
of
that
things.
that makes me worried.
Well, a couple of things got to happen. Number because everybody's learning a new system, right? Receivers are,
Sure.
running backs are. Mateer's kind of the only guy that isn't, right? So that helps a great deal. Okay, but injuries and how quickly can the group come together? All of it. Can they make it all come together?
Mhm.
Because you got to remember, when Lincoln installed his offense, it took a little while, and you go back to that Tennessee game where it looked like they were just dying on the vine, and then Baker turns it on there in the fourth quarter, and they end up coming back and winning in overtime. It takes a little time to mesh. It takes a little time to gel. So it's I just can't be that optimistic right off the bat just because there's so many new faces. There's so many new thoughts and everything going through their heads and all that type of stuff. So, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. Man, if they can pull it off, if they can beat Michigan at home in
Yeah.
week 2
Yeah.
and and they
Yep.
can go rolling into Texas and have some confidence, then yeah, maybe I'll start getting a little bit more optimistic. And it's gonna, I'd love to talk after that first game if we're able to come out and dominate the line of scrimmage. I'm talking about guys running over people's ass. Then I'll be optimistic, way more than I am now.
Yeah.
I know we're super early, and we're gonna have you on again before season kick.
Sure.
But what's your expectation as win total? Like what are the win line? 9, 10, 8, like 11, 12. Like what is the win total for you of a good OU season? Just a
Ooh,
good OU season. What would make
well,
you happy? JY. Season kick. I want this number of wins. Not don't take the coaching, getting fired, like any of that crap. Take all of that.
well,
Just
sure.
what is JY? What is your standard for wins?
Well, you look at the SEC as a whole, right? Jackson Dart is going to the NFL. Quinn Ewers is going to the NFL. You got Ole Miss that's coming to our place this year. They're breaking in Arch Manning at Texas. I think you got a new quarterback at Michigan. They're still,
Mhm.
they are who they are. I think our defense matches up pretty well with Michigan. So that's important. They're kind of still a 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of offense. Um, I like our defensive line. I like our linebackers. If our secondary stays healthy, I like that. Um, Alabama's breaking in a new quarterback. Auburn's breaking in a new quarterback, even though it's Jackson Arnold, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I like
you
that he's
know,
having to come back to the Palace and
you
play.
know,
So.
Garrett Nussmeyer down at LSU
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is he? I think he's back. So,
Hmm.
but they're graduating some offensive line. We get them at our place this year. Tennessee. Um, they've got their quarterback back, Nico
Nico.
Amialava, I think.
Yep.
And we go to their place this year. That's a tough out, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real tough out. You go to Alabama this year, that's going to be tough. Um, you got Auburn at home, Ole Miss at home. Man, defensively, I think the defense is going to keep us in every game we play. Right. I think Mateer has enough of that shit in him that we were talking about earlier that he's going to make some plays. I think a lot of the guys that had hangnails and things like that last year that kept them out of games are going to believe that they got a chance to win maybe this year. So they're probably going to play through some things they might not have last year because they thought it was an exercise in futility. Um, and you said something earlier, and I know this is a long-winded answer, but man, to me, growing up in Oklahoma and wanting to be Brian Bosworth when I was growing up, and obviously I'm too big and I couldn't be a linebacker, but um, great seasons at Oklahoma are mythical seasons at other schools,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
what I want to see, I don't know that I can put a win total on it. The number that keeps screaming at me in my mind is 9,
Hmm.
right? Um, just because I want to see our offensive line and our defensive line dominate the hell out of people. If we make mistakes, if we have a turnover, if we drop a critical pass or mess up a key first down or have a face mask penalty or a pass interference penalty or something that gives the game up somewhere, I can live with that. What I can't live with anymore, I can't live with as an Oklahoma Sooner fan is watching us getting pushed around.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
Because again, going back to that mentality, and me and my teammates talk about it to this day, I had a feeling before we'd walk out of that tunnel that if the other team wanted to fight, we'll get right out here on the 50-yard line or the parking lot and we will scratch us off a line and we'll get hot. And I'm pretty sure you ain't going to win. So I want that mentality. That's
Yeah.
what I want.
Yeah.
I want to be proud of an Oklahoma team fight. That's what I want.
No, that's fair. And I felt like we saw some of that on the defensive side last
You
year.
did.
I
Yep.
don't think we got pushed around too many games on that side of the ball. There were
Yep.
times where maybe we did, but definitely offensive side. We need to see that. So I'm with
I
Rob.
agree.
That was a great take. Uh, I'm and
So
I'm with you on the 9. That was my number last year, and I'm sticking with it, even though the schedule has it's like one game tougher with Michigan.
sure.
I like that 9 number. That would make me feel better as a fan as well.
Yeah, because you think about it, we should have beat Missouri.
Yep.
Should have beat LSU before we throw that throwback bullshit. Bauer Sharp, whatever the hell. You know. Should have beat them. Should have beat Tennessee,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
I think if Michael Hawkins starts that game, I think we win. So there's and that's what it is. Even as by Oklahoma standards, even as bad as the record was, even though it's not bad for a lot of schools, there were a lot of games that could have gone the other way,
Sure.
whether you win them or you lose them, because
Mm-hmm.
you had a chance against Ole Miss too.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep.
you know
In
you
South
didn't you
Carolina
didn't
game, we spotted him 21 points. So
yeah you
there's
get
so many what ifs. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't. Lou Holtz used to say, I don't think you're ever as bad as you think you are, and I don't think you're ever as good as you think you are. You're
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I don't think the Sooners was as bad as what everybody thought they were. They just didn't have a good year. So,
Great stuff, JY. That was great. That was awesome. That was a lot of fun.
yeah. Well, I enjoy
So
doing
much
it,
fun.
guys.
So
Anytime
much
you
fun.
want to talk, man, bring me on. I'm
Yep.
ready.
Yep.
I love it. I enjoy it.
Yes.
Now we love getting people like you on so Rob and I can like give our voices a rest and just sit back and enjoy the show, man.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's something you never got to worry about with me. I never shut up. So
Perfect.
I love it.
Yeah. All right, Rob, you want to
Well,
wrap us up here?
sure. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, JY, we're tons of fun and giving lots of insight on your projected O line and or what you think the projected O line will be, and the mentality of the offensive player and everything that the offensive line group has gone through, what we expect Coach B is gonna do with this awesome crop of players and what we're going into here in 2025, and we've got a lot of work to do. I mean, it's only April, it's the top of April. These players are going to go through, these coaches are going to go through a ton of work into the season, and yeah, I mean, sitting here, I mean, it feels pretty good. I mean, spring's got a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. You mentioned that Jay Wise mentioned is we're all cautiously optimistic. We're taking in the news, we're taking in everything. We're trying to learn about this team. We know that we've got an awesome quarterback that is very talented. We know we got a young OC and Ben Arbuckle he's full of energy, and we're gonna let it rip, man. We're gonna let it rip and see what happens.
Awesome.
I'm hopeful that Mateer wins the Heisman. I'm hopeful.
Boy, that'd be nice.
Hey, he scored 40.
Yeah.
He scored 44 touchdowns last year. He scored 44 touchdowns last year.
That's a lot.
If he scored 44 in an OU jersey, whether we're in the Big 12 or whatever, if he was in an OU jersey, he would be on a Heisman watch. It wouldn't be Nussmeier.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be Nussmeier. It would have been Nico. It wouldn't be if he. I'm again, like with you, I'm cautiously optimistic because there's so many moving pieces, but the kid can rip it, man. The dude has an arm.
He does.
He can throw it. Like, he can throw that rock, man. Like,
yeah, he can. He can
he's
play,
got
dude.
the arm.
He can play.
He's got the confidence. He's gonna show he's got that chip.
Yep.
He's the kind of guy that's just like, again, get on my shoulders. I'm gonna carry you. So
yeah,
anyway,
it's big.
Yeah.
Wrap it up, Brad. Before I start.
Yeah. No. Man, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your time too for coming on, spending it with us.
Of course,
we appreciate all of it. But yeah, we'll be shouting out at you again. We may do something after the spring, just if some things materialize or something like that. So
yeah, if you guys get your hands on some film, send it to me. I'd love to look at it and all that kind of thing. So
Rob's got it. So.
What do you want to see? What you want? What do you want?
Dude, I'm a film rat. I introduced you to CJ Nickson's offensive highlights today. So, I mean,
dude,
send it to me. I'm gonna watch it.
I've got all of Washington State, all of it, all the 22 of Washington State.
Do it. Let's break it down.
All right. Yeah, I'll see you log in. We can do. You and I can do some. Brad doesn't like that. Brad doesn't like looking at film.
I can't help it.
He falls asleep. Like he'll rather just take a melatonin and fall asleep on the ground on a hard floor, cold ground, versus watching film. But I'll send you some info.
Sure.
Let you dive into it. I got it. I mean, I categorize it. Like I've got personnel group, play, run, all the runs, pass play, all. I spent like I think it's like 400 minutes logged in. Yeah, of breaking down Washington State. You won't find anybody that knows Arbuckle's offense than I do.
Well, I want to look at it. That sounds like an awesome time.
Yeah, it'll burn up some, right? I do it because it's off season. What the hell else are we gonna do? I want to watch film, so I want to watch football. It's football. So anyway, we'll talk offline about it. All right, take us out of here, Brad. Get us out of here.
Yeah, no, thanks again, everyone. Appreciate it. Stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time. Boomer Sooner.
Follow these guys. They're great.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
That's my standard. My champion standard.